Hey everybody, it's Ken and Danille.
Hello.
And we are here with Sophie Dearden. You guys have heard her before. We wanted to get some updates. Sophia, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and definitely to share some updates. It's been quite the year since I last spoke to you guys.
Why don't you just give everyone an overview of, your company, how it's grown, what you're doing, just to kind of get some context around where we're headed next.
I've always been super ambitious and driven. I knew that I wanted to build a career and be an entrepreneur. So fast forward 5 years later, when I had my first son and set up a company, which I think we talked about before, it was an e-commerce company. I knew that I wanted to build wealth, of course, and build generational wealth, but do it in a way where it didn't suck all of my time and energy out of me. As my experience had been in the 20s, I didn't want to sacrifice family, relationships, time. So that's why I started looking at working with virtual assistants. We started looking to work with virtual assistants from the Philippines, mainly because we didn't have office space. We didn't have a huge budget. It's more cost effective to hire from the Philippines because of the cost of living. Very quickly, that e-commerce company grew, and we realized there was a huge opportunity. If you could match highly skilled, engaged virtual assistants with business owners that needed either flexibility with the support or were more looking at a more cost-effective solution, or like us, didn't have an office at the time. So that's why we started Resource Worldwide. So the idea of hiring someone remotely pre-2020 was probably a big jump for a lot of companies, whereas now they've had to build infrastructures to have people work remotely anyway, because it's how they had to survive through COVID. So having someone work remotely in the States, for example, versus having someone work remotely in the Philippines, it's not such a big jump for people to get their minds into. So once people realize the skill sets and the supply that you can get, along with the added advantage of the cost savings, we've seen this kind of, balloon of interest in what we do. And it's tested us to start going, okay, well, how far can we push this? What is the level that we can start placing into companies? And we've been amazed that, touch wood, to date, we haven't had a request come through that we haven't been able to fulfill.
Give us some perspective to some of the folks of what the savings are.
Averages out to be about 40%. So it's about 40% less than you would pay for that same role in the States. It varies slightly. What we're seeing is the really highly skilled roles. So I'll give you an example. We have some engineers out. So we have some guys who are gas engineers and electrical engineers working for engineering companies. They're really specific skill sets. And here in the UK, you might look to be paying someone 120 grand a year for that role. The supply is really high for that role in the Philippines. So you can pay someone in the Philippines, say 50 grand for that role. So actually less than 50%, and get someone super skilled. So it's almost like the more skilled the role is, the bigger the cost saving is, because in the States and the UK, it's a candidate driven market for those types of skill sets. Admin, customer support, where there's a lot more supply in your home country, there's slightly less because they're just prepared to take lower wages in your home country. So that maybe sits around 25%, but anywhere between 25 to 50, average about 40.
And then you said you had transitioned a little bit into like real estate activities. So can you go over some of the real estate activities you transitioned into?
Yeah, so there's a couple of sectors that we work really closely with, and one of them is construction and property. So for example, we will work with developers, or we will work with guys that build apartment blocks. There's a couple of companies who we've been introduced to since we spoke previously, and they're building like £100 million apartment blocks, for example, and they've started to see the benefit of outsourcing everything around design, BIM coordination and project management, architecture, CAD drawings, cabinetry design. So those kind of higher skilled things that can be done remotely. But also they're looking at bringing guys in to do the social media, to do the marketing, to do some email outreach, to do some admin and PA work. So there's two pretty clear, distinct signs. One is the admin, the customer support, the marketing, the social media. But the other one, like I say, is more technical. And whenever it's someone who we need to bring in that's of a high skill, we always look that they've got a minimum of a master's degree, so not just a bachelor's. And we always make sure that they've got experience. And because this has been around for quite a while in the Philippines now, a lot of the guys we're able to bring on have got experience with American companies as well.
Yeah, what are some best practices that you've seen with people that are in property investing?
Probably one of the biggest barriers, I would say, that people have to working with remote professionals and virtual assistants. Well, how are they going to fit into the culture of the company? But like I said, number one, a lot of companies have hybrid working as an offering now anyway. So a lot of companies, without even necessarily realizing they're doing it, have got a great culture for remote workers. But there's some really basic key things. Zoom meetings. So having your team members from around the different places in the world in a Zoom meeting at the same time once a week, we always would support and encourage that. And then another one is doing a coffee shop. We call it a coffee room break. So we put it on in our own company once a month, and we'll do an hour, and we'll pay for all of our team because we have people that work for us in the UK as well now. So we'll pay for our team in the Philippines and our team in the UK to have a brunch or a lunch, or because there's different time zones, depends where they are as to what they're having. We'll just get on Zoom together, and we'll all share like one thing you didn't know about us. You know, those conversations you have when you're making tea and you're like talking and starting to get to know each other. So really putting a lot of emphasis on building relationships and actually formatting a way to do that, because you're not just going to be bumping into each other. The last thing is being really clear on what you're expecting your team members to do. And again, you can use this amazing automated project management tools like Asana, Trello, but you can set tasks up and they can just go into it, see the tasks, sign them off as they've been done. So again, there's not massive management. Again, it seems overwhelming, the idea of how you have someone working remotely for you. But once you actually have done it and you know how to do it, it's really quite straightforward.
How do you place somebody? Like when we call you with, an issue, what's the process?
So if you're calling with a requirement, we've got a couple of different steps, but our focus is really on a consultative approach. So we'll identify exactly the gap that you have. We'll go through the requirements that you've got and see whether or not, again, sometimes people will send requirements and we're like, that's 3 different people. So we're not going to say yes to that. We're going to split it up because they're totally different skill sets. Or it may be that it's not actually developed enough and we go, well, this person, we could actually get them to do this and this and this. So we're very consultative in the approach. We then, once the order's been confirmed and the details have been confirmed, we then hand it over to an account manager. So all of our account managers have psychology degrees as a minimum. And the reason for that is because that's when the matching process starts. So we match on skills and experience secondary to that person's personality, how they're going to fit into the culture of the company, how they respond to different situations, various levels of psychometric testing. Then once we've got 2 matching candidates for the role, so the top 2 people, we will present to the client, who will get to meet them face to face, see any portfolio, see its associated CV, and then they'll select the one they want to start working with. And then we will support them through the onboarding and then the ongoing management.
Well, that's perfect. That's perfect. And what's the best way that people can reach you?
I actually have been working as well to put something together, which I don't know if you'd like to share in the show notes, but it's a little bit more detailed and it's just an illustrated, it's not an ebook. I'm not going to claim it's an ebook. It's just a PDF really to kind of explain a bit more about process and some of the questions you ask, how do you start looking into your own business as to where these gaps might be? What do you do when you find the gaps? What's some of the process and some of the steps you can take? So if you would like to, I can send that to you to share in the show notes.
Yeah.
And also our website, so resourceworldwide.co.uk. And I can share my LinkedIn profile as well if anybody wants to contact me.
Well, we'll put all that in there, and we'd love to see the PDF because people will definitely want to get that as well.